A very good morning to all my dear students. Welcome to today's session for chapter number 3, which is audit documentation and audit evidence. So I can see that many of you have already joined the Anish, Sankaran, Jash, Aman, Harshita. So very good morning to all of you. And students, as usual, I hope that the homework that was given to you with respect to the essays or the topics that we have covered so far in this chapter has been done by you. So let me just share my screen. So just made a little summary as to what we have done, what we will be covering today, and what we'll be covering tomorrow, which is the last session for this particular chapter. Yes, Dhyanesh, I'll be discussing segment information in detail. You are saying, ma'am, please explain it in short, but I'll be explaining it in detail today because we haven't discussed it. So far in the last 3 sessions, we have covered Essay 230 related to audit documentation, Essay 500 related to audit evidence, whereby we also covered what audit procedures, risk assessment procedures, test of control, and substantive analytical procedures. So basically these are given in other essays, but we have covered all these. Then we have discussed the concept of assertions, and I have given you homework with respect to the assertion topic. I hope the same is clear to all of you. Essay 530 related to written representation we have also covered, and Essay 501 we were doing in the last session, whereby the topic of segment reporting was left, right? Segment information, right? So today we'll be completing with this Essay 501. Essay 505 will be starting, that is related to external confirmation, and Essay 501, which is what initial audit engagement opening balances. And students, please note that I have already uploaded the questions on the portal. So the MCQs, case scenario, the descriptive type of questions along with the answers have already been uploaded. So today, if the time will permit, we are definitely going to discuss all those questions, right? In the next session, we will be completing the last 3 essays that are left, that is Essay 550, that is for related party, Essay 560, that is for subsequent events, and Essay 570, that is going concern, followed by the revision of the topics that you will be sending me, you will be asking me to revise depending upon the availability of time. Okay? So I hope an idea of what we have done in chapter number 3, what we will be doing today and tomorrow, and then we'll be completing with this chapter. So students, before this chapter gets complete, please go through the module if you haven't yet. Start understanding, start going through the module in entirety, including the examples and illustrations, right? Please do not keep it for like later on, that later on you'll start going through the module or anything like that. Please devote at least an hour after the session in order to read from the module whatever we do in the session. Okay? So with a very positive note, let us restart with Essay 501. So if you remember, we have discussed that Essay 501 is also related to what? Audit evidence. And in fact, the entire 500 series is the standards relating to obtaining audit evidence, right? By performing various procedures, audit procedures. So the name of Essay 501 is Audit Evidence, Specific Consideration for Selected Items. So what are the selected items? So these items are inventory, litigation and claims, and segment information. What are the specific considerations? So with respect to inventory, it is existence and condition, right? With respect to litigation and claim, it is what? Completeness. And with respect to segment information, it is what? Presentation and disclosure of segment information. Okay? So we will quickly revise as to what we have discussed with respect to inventory and litigation and claims in the last session. Clear? So with respect to inventory, this essay says that in order to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence with respect to existence and condition, The auditor needs to attend the physical inventory count, which is being getting conducted by the management personnel, unless it is impracticable to do so. So a situation that has been discussed in this essay is that where it poses threat to the safety of the auditor and his team. So in that case, what is to be done, we will discuss. So auditor, not only he needs to attend, but there he needs to evaluate the management instructions and procedures with respect to recording and controlling of the instructions that the management is giving to the personnel. So if you remember this diagram, this management, he is giving instructions to the personnel, to the staff, as to how to record the results of physical inventory count, how to control them, who is going to sign them, where it is to be kept. So auditor is going to what? He's going to evaluate such instructions. He's going to evaluate such results. Okay? Then auditor needs to observe. Anna, I told you that when physical inventory count takes place, generally what happens is the in and out of the inventory is stopped. So auditor will observe whether it is actually happening. Auditor will observe the process of physical inventory count, which has been conducted by the others, that is the staff, the management, right? Auditor will himself inspect. So here we saw that these are the various inventorized bags, है ना? So auditor will inspect the inventory, physical examination of the assets, है ना? तभी तो condition भी पता चलेगी ना, and he'll be able to know whether actually bag में rice ही है या नहीं, right? Then last, auditor will perform test count. What are test count? So inventory which is counted by the auditor to check the counting done by the management, by the client, है ना? So auditor may perform test count also. And then he will perform audit procedures over these results, है ना? जो भी documents are prepared at the time of physical inventory count, vis-a-vis whatever figures or whatever balances of inventory are appearing in the financial statement, he'll compare them and perform the audit procedures on them. Clear? Now we discuss various situations like where if the physical inventory count is not held on the date of financial statement, however it is held on, let's say, 4th April, है ना? So in this case, auditor will conduct the physical inventory count on this date, that is 4th April, and what he'll do that with respect to the intervening period, this period, he will consider the effect of sales and purchases. He'll perform audit procedures on these sales and purchases, and he'll see whether these are correct or not. Thereby, he'll arrive at the figures as on 31st March, है ना? अगर बाद में हुआ है तो he'll perform what? Plus sales minus purchases, whatever sales have been made during this period and whatever purchases have been made during this period. So he'll add all such sales and he'll subtract all such purchases. He'll arrive at the figure at 31st March. Similarly, let's say physical inventory count is getting conducted on, let's say, 25th March, है ना? So here, whatever data he receives for 21st March, he will less all the sales and he'll add all the purchases, right? And then he'll get the data for what? 31st March 2022. Clear? Clear? Then if the physical inventory count, the auditor is not able to attend it due to unforeseen circumstances, है ना? So he make or observe some physical inventory count on an alternate day, and he will perform audit procedure for intervening transaction. What is intervening? Again, the date of the financial statement and the alternate date on which he is getting some physical inventory count. Okay? Attendance at physical inventory count is impracticable. Okay? Now, students, first of all, it says that auditor needs to perform alternative procedures. So let's say on 31st March, the physical inventory count was, the management was conducting that physical inventory count, and attendance at physical inventory count is impracticable. So auditor will perform what? The audit procedures. So what can be done? See, out of this inventory, certain sales or certain use of inventory must have been made. Auditor may check that. before this date, certain purchases of the inventory would have been made. Auditor will perform the audit procedures with respect to those purchases. है ना? So auditor need to perform alternative procedures. He cannot just say that I have a certain general inconvenience. Because of the time, the cost involved, है ना? I'm not having the resources. I cannot attend the physical inventory count. है ना? So thereby I cannot verify these physical this inventory. So auditor, since it is mentioned in essay 200 also, if you remember, I gave you reference of what? The inherent limitations of audit. Let me just take you through the module. So it is mentioned here. See, very important. A matter of general inconvenience to the auditor, however, is not sufficient to support a decision by the auditor that attendance is impracticable. Furthermore, as explained in essay 200, the matter of difficulty, time or cost involved is not in itself a valid basis for the auditor to omit an audit procedure for which there is an alternative, or to be satisfied with the audit evidence that is less than persuasive. What is persuasive? Convincing. ठीक है? So auditor obtains what? Persuasive audit evidence, that is convincing audit evidence. Conclusive तो नहीं होता है ना, we give only a reasonable assurance ना, तो persuasive, convincing है ना. So auditor cannot take a plea that since it is a matter of general inconvenience, I am taking what? Less convincing audit evidence. He needs to perform what? Alternative procedures, like what? Inspection of documentation of subsequent sale of specific inventory items acquired or purchased prior to physical inventory count may provide sufficient appropriate audit evidence about the existence and condition of the inventory. Okay? Though it may happen that auditor is still not able to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence about inventory. So if inventory is material and he is unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, then what is the recourse available? Modify your opinion in terms of essay 705. Why? Because now this is a scope limitation, that auditor is unable to attend the physical inventory count. Okay? Now, it might be possible that the physical inventory is kept with a third party, like warehouse. So what to do in that case? Auditor may request the confirmation from third party with respect to quantity and the condition. He may send an external confirmation to the third party that please give to me in writing that what is the quantity, existence and the condition. Also, the auditor may himself send his team, or he may himself go to perform the inspection of the inventory of his client that is lying at the warehouse. And if that is not possible, he may perform other audit procedures, like he may send some other team, or he may ask the auditor of the warehouse to consider their samples while they are conducting the physical inventory count. They are attending the physical inventory count. So alternate procedures करने हैं, straightforward. You cannot modify your opinion. Still, after performing the alternative procedures, the auditor is unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, then always SA 705 will come into picture. What is SA 705? It is related to what? Modification of the auditor's opinion. And you will be doing this in detail in chapter number 11. Okay? So I hope that with respect to inventory, everything is clear. Now, with respect to litigation and claims. So I told you what is litigation, any dispute that is going on. Let's say before the income tax authorities, or let's say with respect to some GST matters or any such matters, any environmental issue, any litigations and the claims, that is the compensation that the client may have to pay. So here, this is what the selected item, litigation and claim. And what is the specific consideration? The completeness, whether the management has disclosed all the litigations and claims or in the financial statements. So how to design and perform the audit procedures to know about the completeness of litigations and claims. So देखो, we have discussed that. See, first of all, auditor will review the legal expense account. देखो, जब when the auditor is going to review the legal expense account, he may come across, let's say, 10 payments which have been made to various solicitors, various advocates. Auditor can always inquire the management, कि management please explain this in detail. कि ये payment अगर इस advocate के हुए है, what is the purpose? If this payment has been made to this advocate, what is the purpose? So let's say any payment has been made to, let's say, XYZ and advocates, है ना, for some income tax proceedings. Right? But when the management has disclosed the list of litigation in the financial statement, such and to the auditor, such proceeding has not been mentioned. Hana? So auditor can verify it from the legal expense. He can always inquire. Further, with respect to the meetings, Hana, let's say of the board of directors with the external legal counsel, there must be what minutes of such meetings. So auditor can always peruse, always read such minutes, Hana, in order to see as to what was the matter, what was discussed there, whether the management, those charged with governance and the external legal counsel, whether they were agreeing with each other or what was the matter. Okay? So auditor can always consider that. So these are the procedures that the auditor can perform. You may get a straightforward question, है ना? सीधा 3 marks का question you can always get. ठीक है? Now, after performing all these procedures, when auditor identifies that there is a risk of material misstatement, that some material litigation is there, though which has not been recorded in the financial statements and which has not been disclosed to the auditor. Now, what to do? In this case, perform other procedures and seek direct communication with the entity's external legal counsel. Now, tell me if any, let's say some advocate comes to you that so and so is my client, share this information with me. Will you share the information with that other party? Obviously no. Why? Because there is a confidentiality clause. Hana? So here also, let's say the other party, the advocates or the professional body, they have certain confidentiality clause like that. So how to proceed? So auditor will send a letter of inquiry which will be prepared by management, and it will be sent by the auditor to the external legal counsel, requesting them to meet directly to the auditor. To meet directly to the auditor, right? But if the, let's say, the external legal counsel, he himself is not willing to meet, or the management is not giving the permission, in that case, or that external legal counsel, he refuses to respond, and by performing any other procedure, the auditor is unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, then what is the recourse available? As usual, that we have done always, that after performing each and everything, still auditor is unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, modify the opinion. Okay? Now, when will it be necessary to meet the external legal counsel? So we have seen that letter of inquiry yoga prepared by the management, sent by the auditor. And when will it be necessary to meet? Suppose there is some significant risks, some fraud risk factor after performing these above procedure, auditor applying his professional judgment and professional skepticism. देखो यहाँ पे professional skepticism आ जाता है ना. That's why there is a document, or why such some payment has been made to XYZ and advocates, and why in the list that is not available, है ना? तो professional skepticism लगाया, professional judgment लगाया, and auditor finds that there is some fraud risk factor. So he needs to meet what? External legal counsel. The matter is complex, or there is disagreement between the management and external legal counsel. When auditor went through, he perused the minutes of the meetings, he found that there is a disagreement between the management and external legal counsel. And obviously we have seen that it should be with the management's permission, and along with what? In this case, when there is a disagreement, representative of the management should be there when they are meeting, right? So, and the last point is, we have done this is in an SA 580, remember, with respect to written representation. So though it is not a sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, but yes, it is a necessary audit evidence now. So obtain from the management that all known actual or possible litigation and claims have been disclosed to the auditor, and they have been properly accounted for and disclosed as per the applicable FRF in the financial statement. So very, very important, obtain what? Written representation. We have seen that it is mentioned in SA 580 that with respect to the responsibilities, or where the essays require, or where the auditor understands that it is necessary to obtain written representation, auditor may obtain that. So if you get a question that which essay specifically require the auditor to obtain written representation, to SA 501. Okay? So is it clear? So I can see a number of you have joined, which is very good. So Dhyanesh, I hope with respect to litigation and claims and inventory so far is clear. Your doubt is with respect to segment information, which we'll be doing just now. Now the third selected item is what? Select segment information, and the specific consideration for which SA 501 helps is the presentation and disclosure as per the applicable FRM. Okay. Now, very simple. See, with respect to, let's say, a client A Limited is there, which is having sales in various kind of product. It is dealing in a number of products. So these are what the various segments. These are what the various segments. Okay. Now, with respect to this, the auditor, see, AS17 is there with respect to segment information, and AS108 is there with respect to segment information. So auditor needs to obtain an understanding. So what audit procedures auditor will perform? Only here with respect to what? Presentation and disclosure. So auditor needs to obtain what? An understanding about the methods that the management is using in order to prepare what? Determine the segment information. Okay. Now, when the auditor is understanding, he is obtaining the understanding of such methods, he will evaluate such methods, that whether such methods result in disclosure as per applicable FRF, and he will test whether such methods have been applied or not. Right? Simple hai, obtain karna hai understanding. He'll evaluate whether that method results in the disclosure as required in applicable FRF, and he'll test the application. Further, he'll perform certain procedures as per SA 520. Now, this is a query for all of you. Tell me, what should I mention here? He'll perform what? SA 520 I have mentioned. Quickly, I need answers. Students, quickly send in your replies. Priyanka, no issues. Concentrate on the lecture now. So Dhyanesh has answered it correctly. Others also, please write your answers. Chandan, Jyoti, Priyanka, Ayushi, Sapna, Alok, Gomati, Anand, Ramachandra, Kashif, Harshita, Aman, Jash, Sankaran, Anish. So yes, it is what? Analytical procedures or substantive analytical procedures. So Dhyanesh, Jyoti, Priyanka, Alok, you all are absolutely correct. Okay? Now, when the auditor is understanding the methods, let us try to understand this in detail, that what matters auditor needs to understand. See, with respect to segment information, now, if there are any within the segment sale or transfers or any charges between the segments, so whether these have been eliminated, the inter-segment amounts, he'll perform certain comparisons with the budgets that the management has prepared. He'll see as to how the allocation of assets and costs have been made between the various segments. Certain common assets must be there, certain common expenditure must have been done, how the allocation has been done, and he'll compare the information with the prior period. Clear? Is it clear? Simple, Hannah. So this was all about what? Segment information. So let us just have a look at this from the module, and then we will just a minute. Let us read this entire essay from the module. So the name is what? Audit evidence, specific considerations for selected item. So what is the objective? To obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence with respect to certain aspects. They could not all assertions, certain assertions with respect to inventory, litigation claims, and segment information. So existence and condition of inventory, completeness of litigation and claims, and the presentation and disclosure of segment information as per the applicable FRF. So with respect to inventory, he'll attend, he evaluate, see management instructions and procedures for recording, controlling the results of entities' physical inventory count. Now, if you remember this diagram now, that this is the management, Hana. So management is, this is the management, these are what? Staff. So management is giving certain instructions and procedures for recording and controlling the results of physical inventory count, Hana. Observe the performance of management's count procedures and inspect and perform test count. Then entities final inventory record को compare किससे करना है? The actual inventory final records. Now there is a topic that what are the matters which are relevant in planning the attendance at physical inventory count, है ना? So it depends upon various factors. These are simple. You can read it at home. Nature of inventory, the stages of completion of work in progress, the risk of material misstatement, nature of internal control, adequate procedures are there or not by the management. That is whether physical inventory count internal control is good or not. Timing क्या है? Whether there is perpetual inventory count or not. The locations at which inventory is to be inventory count will be held. The assistance of auditors expert, whether it is needed or not. Accordingly, he'll plan the attendance at the physical inventory count. Agar kisi expert ka bhi knowledge is required, then obviously he is going to take that expert along with him. Okay? So what is perpetual inventory system count? So basically, perpetual is what? Continuous. Like if you see in the grocery stores, big grocery stores, there is continuous track of the inventory. System में feed होता रहता है and continuously track होता रहता है that how much inventory is left, how much is so. So auditor needs to consider all these things. Now, if it is conducted on a date other than date of financial statement, then attend it on that other date and perform audit procedures to obtain. The auditor shall, in addition to the procedures required above, that is on that alternate, on the other date, auditor needs to attend that physical inventory count. Plus, with respect to the inventory between the count date and the date of financial statement, perform audit procedures, right? If it is auditor is unable due to unforeseen circumstances, then observe some physical inventory count on some alternate date and perform audit procedure for the intervening transactions. Okay? If it is impracticable, then perform alternative audit procedures. If still unable, then SF 705. We have discussed, see, this is the example that where inventory is held at a location that may pose threats to the safety of the auditor. Clear? If it is kept with a third party, request confirmation from third party with respect to quantity. This is what existence and condition. Perform inspection, other audit procedures. I told you that ask some other auditor, ask the auditor of the warehouse. Okay? So this is the example. Paramount Exports Limited. I am discussing illustration number 8 on page number, illustration number 9, sorry, on page number 3.47. So Paramount Exports Limited is a manufacturer exporter having its own production capacity and also gets job work done through various job workers. The auditor of Paramount Exports Limited consider that inventory held with job workers is material to the financial statement. Suggest the audit procedure. So see a case, some situation has been asked, but if you look at the last line, now see a straightforward question is there. So it might happen that after reading this situation, you might get confused, but read the question in entirety. At the end, see such a simple question. It is asking for the audit procedures when the inventory is kept with the other party. So this is the answer. So this is the way we will be writing the answer, that when the inventory is under the custody and control of the third party, and if it is material. See, this information is already given in the question. So write that in your answer now. And in fact, you can also write in this case, the inventory of Paramount Export Limited is kept with the job workers, and the auditor consider it as what material to the financial statement. So the auditors of Paramount Exports Limited, they need to perform the following procedures. They may request the confirmation from third party or this. Okay? So this is the way you need to write the answers. Okay? So is it clear? Now with respect to litigation and claim, auditor needs to perform all these procedures, inquire management or the in-house legal counsel, reviewing the minutes of the meetings, those charged with governance and external legal counsel, review the legal expense account. If risk of material misstatement is assessed, what is meant by that? That there is an additional, it indicates that some material litigation or claim exists, which is not to be recorded in financial statement, which is not to be disclosed to the auditor, then seek a direct communication to the external legal counsel. But how will that happen? Letter of inquiry, it will be prepared by the management and auditor is going to send it to the entity's external legal counsel, requesting him to communicate directly to the auditor. But it might be possible that the professional body of that that expert, it is prohibiting him from communicating. So auditor needs to perform what alternative procedures in that case, है ना? When is it necessary to communicate? When the auditor determines that there is significant risk, complex matter है या disagreement है, ठीक है? Ordinarily पर management की permission से and with the representative of the management in attendance, right? So see this question. So for all of you who were saying, ma'am, how to answer the question? So let's take this illustration 10. Pride India Limited is a manufacturer of various FMCG fast-moving range of products. The company is having several cases of litigation pending in the court. The auditor wanted to identify the litigation and claims resulting to risk of material misstatement. Hana? So suggest the auditor with reference to essays. Okay? So the auditor shall design and perform the following audit procedures, Hana. And if he assesses the risk of material misstatement, he needs to communicate with the external party. And if that is not possible, see, if management refuses to give auditor permission to communicate or external party is not responding and the auditor is unable to obtain, then in terms of SA 705, he needs to modify his opinion. Right? Clear? Now we have seen written representation. The essay related to written representation is what? Essay 580. But Essay 501 specifically gives the right to the auditor to ask for a written representation from the management as to whether all actual and possible litigation and claims whose rights should be considered when preparing the financial statement have been disclosed, right? And whether the same has been accounted for in the financial statement as per the applicable FRF. Now segment information. The auditor needs to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Okay? So there is no rocket science in learning all these things. ना आपको पता ही है that essay 500 series में sufficient appropriate audit evidence आएगा, right? For with respect to what presentation disclosure of segment information. So auditor is going to obtain understanding of the methods. जब understanding obtain, the auditor is obtaining the understanding, he will evaluate whether such methods are likely to result in disclosure as per applicable FRF and whether they, he'll test the application of such methods, that whether जो methods or management apply करें, whether that has been actually applied or not, he'll perform analytical procedures, right? So auditor will consider what inter-segment amounts, comparison with budgets, allocation of assets and cost among segments, and consistency with the prior period. Clear? So tell me, is Essay 501 clear? Now we'll be starting with Essay 505, but I need replies from all of you whether Essay 501 is clear or not. Quickly send in your replies. Students, send in your replies so that I can also see how many of you are attentively attending the session. Chalo, good. Ayushi, Alok, Dhyanesh, Sapna, Anand, Jyoti, Ramachandra, Priyanka saying, ma'am, clear. Now our next essay, which is what? External confirmation. बहुत simple है. पहले थोड़ा सा discuss करेंगे as to how practically it happens, and then we will go through the provisions. Acha, it is not mentioned in this file. Just a moment. See, Krishna Shah is saying कि मैम segment information को हिंदी में बता दो. तो segment information basically क्या है कि management ने क्या method apply किया है ना? तो auditor उसकी understanding obtain करेगा कि what is the method, है ना? For determining segment information, right? So for that auditor ये भी देखेगा कि वो जो method management ने apply किया है क्या वो वाकई में as per applicable FRF disclosure दे रहा है, and auditor test करेगा कि वो वाकई में apply हुआ है या नहीं जो method for segment information management ने determine किया है, ठीक है? Auditor कुछ analytical procedures, that is what comparisons, ratio analysis, that last year ये वाले segment का इतना contribution था to the total revenue. This year what is the contribution? So analytical procedures, comparisons with the last year, ratio analysis, trend analysis, auditor ये सब perform करेगा, right? Now जब auditor understanding obtain कर रहा है तो basically कुछ बातें हैं कि क्या क्या auditor को समझना है. So inter segment, within the segment हो सकता है कुछ sales हो, कुछ transfers हो, तो उनको eliminate कर दिया गया है नहीं when with respect to the financial statement as well, consolidated, like for the financial statement as a whole. Comparison करेगा वो budget से. Allocation of assets and cost to the various segment. ऐसा हो सकता है ना कि different products बना रहा है company, but same machinery लग रही है, same कुछ costing लग रही है. So how कैसे उसको allocate किया है among the various segments, and he'll compare with the prior period segment information. ठीक है? So Mr. Krishna Shah, is it clear? So let me just share with you the PDF for external confirmation. Just a minute. So Mr. Krishna Shah, is it clear? Okay. So now we'll be starting with another important essay, which is what? External confirmation. So students, if you just understand the concept now, है ना, कि क्या purpose है, होता क्या है. See, no cramming is required in essays, no cramming at all, है ना. Any case study, any practical question that you may get with respect to essays are going to be very easy for you if you have understood कि क्या responsibility है auditor की, उसमें कुछ audit procedures लिखे होंगे, and last में तो यही होता है that if he is unable to obtain, he needs to modify it, है ना. तो एक sequence चलता है ऐसे का. If you understand the entire idea कि ये ऐसे क्यों आया है ना, and I've told you that essay 500 series में तो purpose is what? To obtain sufficient accurate audit procedures. जैसे यहाँ पर the name is what? essay 505 is what? External confirmation, है ना. So what it deals with the auditor's use of external confirmation procedures to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So practically कैसे होता है? Let us just discuss that, then we will go through whatever is mentioned in the module. See, when the auditor, let's say auditor is verifying the debtor balances or the creditor balances of the client, है ना. So after having a look at the list, so first of all, auditor will ask for a list from the management. Ki management, please provide me with the list of all the debtors and creditors, the balance that is coming as on this date. Okay. Now, let's say there are, 500 debtors. So on a sample basis, auditor will applying his based on the assessed risk of material misstatement, based on materiality and other factors like his professional judgment. Auditor will select a sample that with respect to so and so debtors, I'll send an external confirmation request. What is this? External confirmation. Hana? So auditor is going to send a request letter to the selected debtors that dear debtors, please confirm whether the balance of my client in your books of accounts as on this particular date is so and so. Please confirm it. Or the other way, how the auditor can write the confirmation that dear debtor, please tell me what is the balance. So he may mention the balance, that is with the balance or without the balance, right? So this is what confirmation request. He'll ask the management to provide him with the addresses of the debtors. He'll send that confirmation request to the concerned person at the debtor's place, and he will receive the responses to those requests. Okay? Now, there might be a situation where there is no response. There might be a situation whereby he receives a response and that tallies with whatever is appearing in the financial statements of the client, which is fine. And there might be a situation where he receives the response and that is not tallying with the information that is present in the financial statement of the client. Like the debtor is saying the balance is 5 lakh, but the balance of debtor in the books of the client, it is coming, let's say, at 8 lakhs. So this is what? Some exception. Right? So how to deal with non-response, how to deal with exception? What is the procedure? So auditor he need not just obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence by performing external confirmation procedure. This essay also tells as to what is the procedure. That first he needs to determine the information that he needs to confirm. He needs to determine the parties from whom he needs to get the data. He needs to design the external confirmation request, and he need to send and follow up also in case there is no response. So this was about the practical aspect, like practically this happens, right? Further, there can be one more point that it might happen that the management refuses the auditor, that management may ask the auditor, request the auditor that auditor, please, with respect to this particular Mr. Sham, who is our debtor now, please do not send any confirmation request. Now, auditor needs to consider what are the reasons, whether these are valid or reasonable. So let's say management says that some dispute between the company and Mr. Sham is going on. So auditor will perform alternate procedures. That is, he'll go through the, let's say, the litigation papers, that dispute papers between with that party. So he'll perform alternate procedures. Okay? And if that reason is unreasonable, then again he'll perform alternate procedures. If then also is unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence and that debtor is material, then consider the effect on the other aspects of audit, modify the opinion if required. Simple. Hai? Now, there are two kinds of confirmation requests which are discussed in these essays, which was positive confirmation request and negative confirmation request. Okay? So this was about what all practical aspect, that how practically it happens. Simple hai na, ek bari visualize karo, you are in the process of verifying the debtors or the creditors. So you'll obtain a list that, okay, this list consists of what? 500 debtors. Applying the sampling techniques, applying materiality, risk of material misstatement, you select a sample of, let's say, 50 debtors. You ask the management to provide the addresses of these 50. You will send the confirmation request and you will make sure that the response is received directly by the auditor. It is not happening that first the management is receiving it, then the auditor is receiving it. So it is directly obtained from the auditor, and then based on whether the response is received or not, based on what kind of response is received, auditor is going to perform various audit procedures. Clear? Now, students, we have, we have discussed a topic with respect to the reliability of audit evidence. Remember? Whereby we have understood that it depends upon the reliability of audit evidence, depends upon the nature and the source of audit evidence. Remember, relevance, reliability, nature, source. Now, tell me, when can we say that the audit evidence is more reliable? That is, the reliability increases when it is obtained from independent source, independent of the management. And tell me, is this feature available when we are performing external confirmation procedures? So just write one and yes or no. Tell me. Quickly send in your replies. See, Dhyanish. In segment information, auditor needs to check whether presentation and disclosure is as per the applicable FRF. For that, he needs to obtain an understanding. Uske baad hi to he'll be able to conclude whether it is actually presented and disclosed as per applicable FRF. Let's say if it is not disclosed, he'll discuss that with the management, that management ye sab changes karne hain in the financial statement. If management agrees, it is fine. If management is not agreeing and auditor find it's material, then obviously the impact on the other aspects of audit and the auditor's opinion. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर नहीं है तो ही he'll obtain the understanding. In order to conclude whether the presentation disclosure is as per applicable FRF, उसी के लिए तो ये procedures करने हैं. Is it clear, Dhyanish? So the answer is yes. ठीक है. So independent source से है, vis-a-vis internal source है, तो independent में there is more reliability. If it is obtained directly by the auditor, it is more reliable. ये हमने पढ़ा. Tell me, is this feature contained in when the auditor is obtaining external confirmation procedure? So write 2 and whatever is your answer. Also write the answer for third, that the reliability of the audit evidence increases if it is in documentary form vis-a-vis any oral audit evidence. So tell me, is this feature available in external confirmation response? So the answer is yes. Okay. So that is why, see, where is it mentioned? You have seen this, these provisions are given in SA 500 audit evidence. Hana? So since all these procedures are available with respect to external confirmation procedures, so it is the external confirmation response is what? Reliable. Yes, it depends upon the circumstances. So there is not as such a thumb rule that external confirmation is the most reliable or anything like that. It depends upon the circumstances. Let's say the debtor is a related party, right? So if that is the case, then the auditor needs to consider that, right? So I hope my voice is clear. I'm not on mute, students. Sankaran, please check at your end. Anna? So with respect to independence, you are saying, so the answer is yes, because it is received from an independent source now, who is independent of the management. So with related to this, I'm saying that let's say if the external confirmation is received from one of the debtors who is a related party, right? So in that case, the auditor needs to consider that. Okay. Now let us have a look at the various provisions that are there with respect to external confirmation. So we have seen that SA 500 says that reliability of audit evidence depends upon source and nature, and the reliability increases when it is obtained from independent source. It is obtained directly by the auditor, and it is obtained in what? Documentary form. And all these things are available with respect to the external confirmation procedure. See, how is it mentioned? It is mentioned that accordingly, depending upon the circumstances, the audit evidence in the form of external confirmation received directly by the auditor from confirming body may be more reliable than audit evidence generated internally by the audit, by the entity. Clear? Depending upon the circumstances, right? Chalo. Now, what is your objective? Again, to use external confirmation, EC, wherever I have mentioned to external confirmation, auditor needs to design and perform such audit procedures to obtain relevant, reliable audit evidence. Now, what is external confirmations as defined by SA 505? So it is an audit evidence obtained as a, see, these are very important keywords: direct written response. Direct written response to the auditor from a third party, or I can say the confirming party, in paper or electronic form or any other medium. So it can be through a mail also, or through a paper documentary, or like the auditor sends the client, the third party sends it in writing, okay? In the paper form. External confirmation may be defined as audit evidence obtained as a direct written response to the auditor from a third party in the paper form or electronic form or other medium. So it is in writing now. When it is coming in the mail, it is in writing only. Okay. Now, what are positive confirmation request and negative confirmation request? So let us try to understand that. See, positive confirmation request. So here I told you, let's say auditor is sending a confirmation request, which is addressed to, let's say, to a debtor, Hana, and he's saying that, dear debtor, this is with respect to the audit of A Limited for the financial year ending so and so. Your balance that is appearing in books of A Limited is, let's say, 10 lakhs. Please confirm whether it is so, whether you agree or disagree. अगर आपकी बुक्स में 10 lakhs है तो भी मेरे को रिप्लाई करो, अगर आपकी बुक्स में 10 lakhs नहीं है तो भी मेरे को रिप्लाई करो. That is, the other party need to send an answer positively. बेशक अग्री करता है या नहीं करता. So this is what with the balance, है ना? So I told you without balance कैसे हो सकता है? The auditor may ask the third party that, dear debtor, this is with reference to the audit of A Limited for so and so financial year, and please advise what is the balance of A Limited in your books as on this date. What is the balance? So balance is not mentioned, है ना? तो यहाँ पर भी what is the balance है, auditor positively needs what answers, replies from the party. So positive confirmation request. So this is a confirmation request. Let us have a look at the definition. A request that the confirming party respond directly to the auditor, indicating whether the confirming party agrees or disagrees, agree कर रहा है या नहीं कर रहा with the information in the request or providing the requested information. So here the auditor is asking whether it is 10 lakhs or not, and here auditor is saying what is the balance. तो दोनों ही cases में auditor is asking, his auditor is requesting the third party कि मेरे को information दो whether टैली करता है या ये नहीं करता टैली. सिंपल पॉजिटिवली आंसर चाहिए. पॉजिटिव कंफर्मेशन रिक्वेस्ट. नाउ व्हाट इज नेगेटिव कंफर्मेशन रिक्वेस्ट? अगेन a confirmation request sent directly to the where the third party responds directly to the auditor. But क्या request होता है? So dear debtor, this is with reference to the audit, and the balance, your balance in books of my client is 10 lakhs. Please respond if, only if you disagree. अगर ये बैलेंस सेम है ना तो यू नीड नॉट रिप्लाई. अगर ये बैलेंस आपकी बुक्स में डिफरेंट है ना तो प्लीज रिस्पॉन्ड टू दिस रिक्वेस्ट. तो व्हाट इज दिस? सी, a request that the confirming party responds directly to the auditor only if the confirming party disagrees with the information provided in the request. So let's say there are, let's say, thousands of debtors. Okay? Out of that, auditor selects 100 debtors. Now checking the confirmation responses of all these debtors is what it may be some cumbersome project. So what will auditor ask them? To send in the reply only if they disagree. See, students, tell me, positive confirmation or negative confirmation? देखो, what is our purpose? To obtain what? Persuasive audit evidence. That is convincing audit evidence obtain करना होता है. So tell me, which one is more convincing, 1 or 2? Send in your replies. Which one is more convincing? अब देखो, नेगेटिव कंफर्मेशन में इट माइट हैपन ना, नेगेटिव कंफर्मेशन में दिस पार्टी इज नॉट विलिंग टू रिस्पॉन्ड. इसके पास टाइम ही नहीं है रिस्पॉन्ड करने के लिए. ठीक है? तो दिस पार्टी हैज नॉट सेंड द रिस्पॉन्ड टू द कंफर्मेशन रिक्वेस्ट. अगर आंसर नहीं आया तो व्हाट विल ऑडिटर कंसीडर? that this party has agreed, तभी आंसर नहीं आया है ना. सो देर इज सो मच डिफरेंस. देखो, नॉट विलिंग टू रिस्पॉन्ड है एंड अगर अग्री करते हैं तो ऑल टुगेदर डिफरेंट ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स हो जाएंगे ना फॉर द ऑडिटर, है ना. बट दिस कंफ्यूजन कैन रिमेन हियर. ठीक है. सो यू हैव एब्सोल्यूट आंसर्ड इट एब्सोल्युटली correctly that with respect to positive confirmation request, the auditor is going to obtain more persuasive audit evidence. ठीक है. So later on we'll see that with respect to negative confirmation request, we will see that auditor needs to send a negative confirmation request only if there are 4 conditions and all that 4 conditions are satisfied. अगर कोई बहुत material balance है तो उसके लिए should auditor send negative confirmation request? Auditor को लगता है that there is a risk of material misstatement associated with this balance. Tell me, yes or no, negative confirmation request send करना चाहिए? Quickly, yes or no? I'm waiting for your replies. So Dhyanesh, Harshita, Aslam, Priyanka, Ayushi, Anish, please send your replies. Nikhil, Jash. So the answer is no. Anish, Chanchal, Jyoti, Khujema, Ayushi, Alok, Dhyanesh, absolutely correct. है ना. तो अगर कोई रिस्क ऑफ मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट जहां ज्यादा है वहां पर थोड़ी ना नेगेटिव कंफर्मेशन रिक्वेस्ट करोगे. हाँ, वेयर यू नीड टू सेंड लेट्स से द रिक्वेस्ट टू लेट्स से 500 डेटर्स, है ना, एंड the population is large, but the balance here, let's say the balance is between 10,000 to 12,000, small balance है, homogeneous balance है ना. तो यहां पर ऑडिटर में सेंड व्हाट नेगेटिव कंफर्मेशन रिक्वेस्ट. क्लियर. अभी इसको डिटेल में डिस्कस करेंगे. ठीक है. सो पॉजिटिव कंफर्मेशन क्या है? दैट वेयर द कंफर्मिंग पार्टी रिस्पॉन्ड डायरेक्टली टू द ऑडिटर, वेदर द कंफर्मिंग पार्टी अग्रीज और डिसअग्रीज विद द इंफॉर्मेशन और प्रोवाइडिंग द रिक्वेस्टेड इंफॉर्मेशन. कि बताओ ये बैलेंस 10 lakhs है या नहीं, या क्या बैलेंस है. तो पॉजिटिवली आंसर तो चाहिए. नेगेटिव कंफर्मेशन रिक्वेस्ट वेयर द confirming party respond directly to the auditor only if the confirming party disagrees with the information provided in the request. Disagree करता है. Clear? Now what is non-response? Non-response क्या होता है? So non-response, as the name suggests, so this is what positive confirmation and this is negative. ठीक है. तो यहां पर हमने क्या बोला? Whether you agree or disagree, we need an answer, है ना. So we need an answer. Negative, like we are requesting the third party. Negative confirmation में agree करते हो तो मत भेजना, disagree करते हो तो भेज देना. ठीक है. So positive confirmation में if auditor is not receiving the response, है ना, and in fact यहाँ पर तो हमारा ये भी होता है ना, what is the balance, ये यहाँ पर तो होता ही नहीं है situation. ठीक है. So in this situation when the auditor is not receiving the response, it is what? Non-response. ठीक है. And if any of these confirmations is returned undelivered, this is also what? Non-response. Why? देखो, you selected let's say 100 debtors जिसके addresses management provided it to you. You forwarded the confirmation request letter. It returned undelivered. Why? Apply professional skepticism. क्या ये fake debtor तो नहीं है ना. So this is also what? Non-response. Clear? So negative confirmation में तो non-response जैसी कोई चीज नहीं होगी ना. अगर if it is not received, it means what? The party has agreed, है ना. That is why it provides what? Less persuasive audit evidence. Clear now? Positive confirmation में, so let us just have a look at the definition. A failure of the confirming party to respond or fully respond to a positive confirmation request. तीनों situations में you are not getting the reply. अ कंफर्मेशन रिक्वेस्ट, अब यहाँ पे पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव नहीं लिखा है, रिटर्न्ड अनडिलीवर्ड, क्लियर। अगर वो अनडिलीवर्ड है तो आई सेड अप्लाई प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म, ऐसा क्यों है, फेक पार्टी तो नहीं है, क्लियर। नाउ टेल मी एक्सेप्शन क्या होगा, एक्सेप्शन। So exceptions, as I've already told you, that if the response is received and here the value that is mentioned or the information that is given in the letter, in the confirmation letter, and the information that is getting reflected in the financial statement, there is a difference. This is what exception. तो आपने पूछा था कि 10 lakhs है या नहीं, the other party is saying it is 5 lakhs, है ना? So auditor will what? He will see as to what is the reason. It might happen that when you have sent the letter, then at that moment it was 10 lakhs, but after that, when you receive the response, between those some transaction of 5 lakhs have taken place, है ना? So auditor will consider the reason, है ना? If there is no valid reason, auditor will consider the result of this exception and he'll analyze the effect on the entire population. देखो अभी तो let's say 1000 में से auditor has sent the request to let's say 100. If he receives an exception, है ना, he'll consider that okay, अगर 100 में से 10 के ऊपर इतना impact आ सकता है, then what can be impact on the 1001 after considering the reasons. अगर genuine reason है, then obviously he'll perform other procedures with respect to that, right? Clear? So exception क्या है? Let us just have a look from the module. A response that indicates a difference between the information requested to be confirmed or contained in entities record. Entities record में 4 या 10 lakhs लिखा है, तो यहाँ पर भी आप 10 lakhs की confirmation मांग रहे हो ना, that is why or and, या तो ये वाला जो भी information आपने request किया है, request कब करते हो कि whether it is 10 lakhs or not, है ना, या पॉजिटिव में और क्या लिखते हो, that what is the balance, ठीक है, and information provided by the confirming party. The exception needs to be assessed to the entire population after analyzing the reasons for difference. Clear? Now let us have a look at this illustration. During the financial year 2021, the auditor of this and this company asked the trade receivable to respond directly to the auditor whether or not the amount they were required to pay was rupees 79,000. That trade receivable confirmed to the auditor that they were required to pay an amount of 79,000. State and explain the type of confirmation request. Quickly, without looking at the answers, mention whether 1 or 2, like 1 is positive, 2 is negative, or you may write positive, negative. Please send in your reply. Whether or not, whether or not the amount they were required to pay was 79,000 or not. Quickly send in your reply, students. So the answer is what? Positive confirmation, because whether or not you agree or not, positive confirmation. So absolutely correct. See, auditor is not performing only external confirmation as the procedure, Ramachandra. He is performing other procedures also. See, obviously, auditor is going to perform what? His professional judgment based on his assessment of risk of material misstatement, based on the internal controls. Agar auditor could, there is a doubt with respect to the reply from the third party, so auditor will perform other procedures also. Okay, and Mr. Ramchandra, with respect to your doubt, there is a topic in this essay which we'll discuss. Okay. Now, external confirmation procedure kya hai? First of all, you determine the information to be confirmed. So students here just try to understand that it is not only the amount that can be confirmed. The auditor may confirm the terms, that what are the terms of agreement. Auditor may confirm what are the details from the third party. तो सिर्फ amount नहीं confirm करना है, auditor may confirm the terms of the agreement also. ठीक है? Selecting the appropriate confirming party. So auditor is going to select the appropriate confirming party and he's going to address it to the knowledgeable person only, na? So debtors में जिसको suppose debtors is what B Limited. So to the knowledgeable person of B Limited only he is going to address that request. So let us have a look. Determine the information to be confirmed. External confirm procedures frequently are performed to confirm request the account balances and their elements. They may also be used to confirm terms of engagement, contracts, transactions between the entities and other parties. Okay? Selecting appropriate confirming party. Responses to confirmation requests provide more relevant, reliable audit evidence when confirmation requests are sent to the confirming party. The auditor believes is knowledgeable about the information to be confirmed. So, for example, an example is given that with respect to financial institution, the financial institution official is going to give the best of the information with respect to the transaction that has happened with that financial institution. Okay? Now, the next step, which is very, very important, designing the confirmation request, including determining that requests are properly addressed, contain return information for responses to be sent directly to the auditor. It should not happen that the response is first been received by the management and then management is giving that response to the auditor. So designing the confirmation request. See, students, the response rate as to whether the third party, the confirming party, whether it is going to confirm or not. It depends upon how you have designed the confirmation request letter. It should be properly addressed to that party and it should contain the return information, the address to the auditor for responses to be sent directly to the auditor. So what are the various factors that you need to consider when you're designing? Designing is basically the layout, how the confirmation request letter will appear. So it depends upon the identified risk of material misstatement, including fraud risk. So if the risk of material misstatement is high, there are fraud risks, tell me positive confirmation bhejoge ya negative? Positive. The layout and presentation of confirmation request. So when the auditor is designing the confirmation request, he needs to consider all these points. How it is going to appear? Is it be in a layout and presentation? How it is going to appear? Prior experience on the audit of similar engagement. That if earlier the auditor has sent the confirmation request in the previous years also, and the auditor had received the response every time. So, and if that debtors amount, it is large in number and small and homogeneous amount, he may send what negative confirmation. But if he has an understanding that the debtors are not willing to reply, so he'll send what positive confirmation request. There may be a situation that debtors may not reply, so he will send what positive confirmation. The assertions being to be addressed. Like whether he wants to know about the balances as on a particular date, cut off, or he wants to know as to what is the value of particular invoices, methods of communication, paper or electronic form, management's authorization or encouragement to the confirming party to respond to the auditor. And in fact, you will know that some of the parties, they might not be willing to respond unless and until management is authorizing them that this audit is going on, please reply to our auditors. And it is prepared, the confirmation request letters are prepared with respect to the companies on what the management, the client's letterhead, with the management authorization कि ये हमारे auditor हैं, इनको ये information दे दो. So though this is the different case with respect to banks, but generally management client's letterhead. The ability of the intended confirming party to confirm or provide the requested information. So when you are designing the confirmation request, you need to keep in mind that what information you are asking, whether it will be the other party, whether it will be able to provide that information or not. So individual invoice versus the total balance. So if you ask the third party that what is the balance on 31st March, vis-a-vis if you ask the third party कि मेरे को ये 10 invoices का balance बता दो, so which is easy, obviously कि 31st March को क्या balance था, so when the auditor is designing the confirmation request, he needs to consider that. Clear? And then the fourth point is with respect to sending the request, or send करके अगर non-response है within the reasonable time, the auditor needs to send the follow-up request. Yeah. So what is mentioned here? The auditor may send an additional confirmation request when the reply to the, what is mentioned, just a minute, to the previous request has not been received within reasonable time. So he may re-verify the accuracy of the address. Ki address to theek tha na, or he may resend it. Clear? Simple hai. So what are the 4 steps? He will first determine the information to be confirmed. He'll then determine the party who will confirm. He'll then design and make sure that it is properly addressed, and will make sure that it contains the return information so that it is received directly by the auditor. And then he'll send along with what follow. Simple hai na, logical hai, step by step. Now, with respect to Mr. Ramachandra, your query, that no, not this was not query. Your query is contained here. So, if management is refusing to allow the auditor to send the confirmation request, it might happen, है ना? तो सीधा audit report पे impact consider करना है नहीं. पहले तो you will inquire the management कि management what is the reason, and you will see whether it is valid and reasonable or not. ठीक है? Then you will consider its impact on the risk of material misstatement. Just a minute. So these topics we are done. So if management is refusing to allow the auditor to send the confirmation request, inquire management that management what are the reasons, or जो भी management reasons देता है, seek audit evidence whether they are valid and reasonable or not. ठीक है? Consider the implications on the assessment of risk of material misstatement. जो आपने assess किया था risk of material misstatement, है ना? So consider whether there are risk of fraud risk factors तो नहीं है, and determine the nature, timing, extent of alternative procedures accordingly. ठीक है? Done. So you need to inquire the management what are the reasons, है ना? Management कहता है कि भाई disputes चल रहे हैं. So auditor will consider the impact on risk of material misstatement की fraud risk factor तो नहीं है, and he'll perform alternative procedures. Now, if auditor concludes that such reasons are not reasonable, they are what invalid, है ना? And he'll perform what alternate procedures, but still he's unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. He'll communicate this matter with those charged with governance in terms of SA 260. So he'll communicate the matter to those charged with governance in terms of SA 260, that is communication with those charged with governance. Okay? Further, he'll consider the impact on the audit and the audit report, and if is unable, if it is material, consider the impact on the audit report. Simple hai, logical hai. Now, results from the external confirmation procedures. So when the auditor receives the external confirmation responses to external confirmation, what will he do? He'll go through it ना. सीधा रिसीव करके फाइल में थोड़ी ना रख दोगे, ऑडिट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन तो मेंटेन करना है उसका, बट फर्स्ट यू विल एनालाइज इट ना. सो इफ देयर आर एनी फैक्टर्स which indicates that there is a doubt on the reliability of the responses, again perform what further audit evidence. If auditor determines that such external confirmation response is not reliable, तो क्या करना है? यही करना है. Again, consider the implications of on the assessment of risk of material misstatement. कुछ fraud risk factors तो नहीं है. Perform alternate procedures. Clear? Simple है ना? Now, last topic with respect to this essay. I told you that negative confirmation provides what? Less persuasive audit evidence. So it cannot be used as the sole, the only substantive audit procedures unless all the following are present. So yes, external confirmation procedures are what? Very reliable, because we have seen independent भी होता है, documentary form में भी होते हैं, obtained directly by the auditor भी होता है. But if auditor is deciding to use it as a sole substantive procedures, then he can use only if the following all these are present. And so what are these? So try to understand, agar risk of material misstatement is high or the internal controls with respect to, let's say, debtors is not good, so should auditor send negative confirmation? No. So vice versa, that if the assessed risk of material misstatement is low and the ICs are good, auditor may send what? Negative confirmation request. If the population is large, thousand in numbers, but small homogeneous account balance, so don't get confused. ये जो small लिखा है, this is for the balance, and ये जो large लिखा है, this is for the number of items in the population. So auditor may send what? Negative confirmation request. If very low exception rate is expected by the auditor, exception is what? Difference. So auditor is expected that based on his past experience, based on the earlier replies, a very low exception rate is expected based on his results of other procedures. है ना? And if the auditor is not aware of any circumstances that would cause recipient, that is the third party, to disregard the request, कि ऐसा कोई भी situation या circumstance auditor के सामने नहीं है which makes the auditor to believe that सामने वाली party reply ना करे, है ना? There is no such situation based on the past experience or based on the other audit procedures that auditor has performed. So auditor may use negative confirmation procedures as the just a minute, as the sole substantive audit procedure if risk of material misstatement is low and internal controls are good. The population is large in number with small homogeneous account balance. Exception low rate is expected by the auditor, and auditor is not aware of any circumstances that would cause the recipient to disregard the request. Clear? Quickly tell me, is it clear? Now, students, if you remember when we were doing, so from here it is complete, but I'll just take another 7 minutes and then we will take a break. So when we were discussing substantive procedures, there was a topic that I left at that time, that is external confirmation as substantive procedures. Hana? So let us just quickly have a look, though we have discussed it. Hana? See, it is mentioned कि account balances के लिए, elements के लिए, terms के लिए use कर सकते हो आप external confirmation. This is the topic, so which I want to discuss, that what are the situations. I always give example of what debtors, creditors. So what are the situations where external confirmation procedures can be applied? So bank balance confirmation के लिए भी आप external confirmation, you can send a request to the bankers. Accounts receivable and inventories held by third party. Remember, you have done SA 501. If these are kept with what? Third party. है property title deeds held by lawyers, financiers for safe custody, investments held for safe custody by third party, amount due to lenders including the relevant repayment restrictive covenants, account payables. Hana? Further, these points you can read. Further, see, what are the factors which helps the auditor in determining as to whether to use external confirmation as a substantive procedure? यूज करें या नहीं, ठीक है? So the knowledge of the confirming party, the ability and willingness of the intended party to confirm. अगर सामने वाली party is knowledgeable enough to send you that information, then only there is benefit of sending the external confirmation request. Because it might happen that the third party may not accept responsibility for responding to the confirmation request. They may find it too costly or time consuming. They may have concerns about the potential likely legal liability. The third party may feel that if I send a reply, it may lead to some legal liability. The transactions of the other party may be kept in different currencies, or they may operate in an environment where they consider it as not a significant aspect. They may not consider it as a serious request. So auditor needs to consider all these points also. Okay. So this was about your external confirmation, but there is a doubt of Mr. Ramachandran with respect to large number of. So he's saying, ma'am, please explain. Just a minute. Yahan par we have discussed now that large number of small homogeneous population. So large number. So let us first have a look in the module as to how is it written. Others also, please send in your replies or your queries. So we were discussing what? Just a minute. So what is the page number? Hmm. So see, negative confirmation, the population of items subject to negative confirmation procedures comprises large number of small homogeneous account balances, transactions or conditions. So we are discussing this point and this is a doubt of one of the students. So large number of small homogeneous account balance. ठीक है? Homogeneous is what? Similar. So let's say if there are 10 debtors, ठीक है, having let's say the balances ranging between 1 lakh to 10 lakh. So here it is better to send positive confirmation ना, आपकी small population है which is different, तो सभी से आप confirmation मंगवा लो ना. On the other hand, let's say if you have 100 debtors that you have selected from the sample, large number है, homogeneous, that is similar balances hai, balances are small. So this term homogeneous and small is for what? Account balances. So 10,000 से let's say 12,000 की range में ही है, तो smaller amounts are there and similar pattern पे ही है ना ये, small and homogeneous accounts है and large numbers हैं, तो इस case में you may send what? Negative confirmation. So is it clear? सी इसमें कोई रॉकेट साइंस थोड़ी ना है, आपको सिंपल सा प्रोविजन बताया गया कि आपको एक्सटर्नल कंफर्मेशन यू कैन, देयर इज अ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑन द ऑडिटर एज पर द एसएस that you need to send what? External confirmation. This is the way you need to send, है ना? And practically all this actually happens, and practically let me just tell you that positive confirmation request is sent, है ना? That if it is sent, the answers are required, है ना? So I hope it is clear, Nisha, Ramachandra. ठीक है? So we are done with essay 505, and after the break we'll be starting with essay 510, initial audit engagements, opening balances. Students, please fill in your feedback forms that are given on the BOS application. Hana, please do fill that feedback form, and we will meet after a break of 10 minutes here. So students, I hope you all are back after the break. And I can see there is a query of Miss Jyoti that if the amounts are high and sample size are large. So I told you that, see, these are the provisions contained, Hana. So negative confirmation, we are saying that if this is the situation, all these conditions are satisfied, then only go for negative confirmation. So if these conditions are not, any of these conditions are not satisfied, so Jyoti auditor will send what? Positive confirmation. Clear? And Kojima, that is why he's saying that what if the replies are not received directly by the auditor. So let me just, so see the very definition of external confirmation says direct response to the auditor. And that is why when we were studying about the procedure, so design the confirmation request and contain return information for responses to be sent directly to the auditor. Okay? So that is why these provisions are there. Na? So clear, Mr. Kojima? Okay. So I hope students essay 505 is also clear to all of you. Please give me a thumbs up. Then only I'll proceed with the next essay, which is again very interesting and very simple. Essay 510, initial audit engagements, opening balances. Mr. Anand, auditor will apply what? His professional judgment. Na? Then only if he considers that all these things are available, then only he'll go for a negative confirmation request. Yes, Priyanka, carry on. Okay. Now, let us start with the next essay, essay 510. The name is Initial Audit Engagements, Opening Balances. Friends, tell me, have you seen this term earlier? Initial Audit Engagement. Quickly send in your replies. And if yes, where? Yes, it is one of the audit engagements. We have discussed a little about initial audit engagement and recurring audits in chapter number 1. Madam. So, initial audit engagement and opening balances. तो इसको भी कैसे डिस्कस करेंगे? पहले थोड़ा प्रैक्टिकली डिस्कस करते हैं, then we will go through the provisions. अब initial audit engagement क्या होता है? So, when the financial statement of the previous period, either it was not audited or it was audited by predecessor, former, some other auditor. Okay? So, let's say I'm conducting the audit of A Limited for the financial year 21-22. So, if the financial statements of financial year 2021 they were not audited, okay? Let's say it is a partnership firm, okay? So just so last year the partnership firm was not required to get the accounts audited, okay? Now let's say this year the audit is getting conducted. So either last year it was not audited, right? Or it was audited by some B Limited, by some B and Associates. Like you did not conduct the audit. So this is what initial audit engagement. It is the very first year of this company with you. I'm not saying that last year company ही open इस साल में हुई है. I'm not saying that. I'm saying last year either the financial statements of the prior period were not audited or they were audited by predecessor auditor, है ना? So SF501 कहाँ लगता है? जहां पर इनिशियल ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट है, लास्ट ईयर ऑडिट ही नहीं हुआ था या किसी और ने किया था, एंड जहां पर ओपनिंग बैलेंसेस है. ठीक है. Now tell me, when you are giving an opinion with respect to financial year 21-22, okay, so you are giving your opinion with respect to balance sheet as on 31st March 2022 and P&L during the year ending 31st March 2022. Now, how these balances have arrived? In the opening balances, some transactions that took place during the year have been considered, and then these closing balances were arrived. Okay. Now, this opening is what? The closing of last year, for which these were either not audited or these were audited by predecessor. Predecessor is what? Former, earlier, कोई और auditor. ठीक है. Not audited or they were audited by predecessor auditor. ठीक है. Is it clear? Now क्या responsibility है? तो ये ऐसे क्या बोलता है कि देखो auditor, when you are identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement, है ना, under SA 315, अब देखो practically how it happens is we have seen that auditor is going to inspect the financial statements of the previous year, है ना. He may inspect the audited financial statements of the previous year. Agar if the statements financial statements were audited, he may also read the predecessor auditor's report, है ना. And if he reads the financial statement of the audit of the previous year, if they were not audited, then here auditor will determine as to what is the risk associated with respect to such opening balances. Accordingly, he'll decide his NTE of audit procedures कि कितना अब working opening पर भी करनी पड़ेगी. See, if they have been, such financials have been audited by the predecessor auditor, then the rule is that auditor can rely on the work done by other chartered accountant, other auditor. But since he's giving an opinion on the balances as on 31st March 2022, so this SA 510 casts certain responsibility on the auditor with respect to the opening balances and the accounting policies. ठीक है. So auditor को देखो क्या देखना होगा कि ये जो ओपनिंग बैलेंसेस हैं, है ना, ऐसा तो नहीं है कि इसमें कुछ मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट है which is affecting the current period financial statement. ऐसा तो नहीं है that ये जो ओपनिंग बैलेंसेस है, let's say last year inventory was undervalued. ठीक है. So ऐसा तो नहीं है that this is still continuing and this is having an impact on the current year financial statement. If the same has been adjusted in the books of accounts as, let's say, prior period item, or last year only the same was adjusted by the management, then there is no issue. Okay? So auditor needs to consider whether there is any material misstatement in the opening balances which has an effect on the current period financial statement, or whether the accounting policies, you all know as per AS1, these policies should be consistently applied. And in case of any changes which results in better presentation, the same needs to be disclosed and properly accounted for in the financial statements. So whether that has been done or not. So this essay talks about what opening balances ठीक से आए हैं या नहीं, accounting policy ठीक से consistently apply हुआ है नहीं, और नहीं हुआ है तो whether that has been disclosed or not. So opening balances ठीक से आए नहीं, देखो बहुत simple है ना, आपने financial statements उठाए, ऑडिटेड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट लेट्स उठाएं, आप देखोगे कि करेक्टली ब्रॉट फॉरवर्ड है या नहीं, करेक्टली ब्रॉट फॉरवर्ड है या नहीं, सिंपल. ठीक है. फर्दर लेट्स से with respect to, let's say, some current assets and current liabilities. See, during the year, you are performing certain audit procedures for current period. Let's say there was an opening balance of debtor of 5 lakhs. Okay? During the year, you saw that a payment of 5 lakhs is received. Okay? Now you performed the audit procedure with respect to the current period, and by performing such procedure, you are able to obtain audit evidence with respect to such opening balances. So when will this happen? With respect to the current assets, current liabilities, because वो एक साल में realize हो जाएंगे, आपको pay करना पड़ेगा. So that becomes your transaction during the year under audit. And when you're checking those transactions during the year under audit, they indirectly provide you audit evidence with respect to what? Opening balances. Clear? Further, with respect to certain items, for example, let's say certain fixed assets, building hai, Hana. So if this is the opening balance, Hana, so with respect to that, you may need to perform what specific audit procedure during the current period. For example, you may ask the management कि management ये building आपका as a opening balance आ रहा है, and suppose 10 CR की आपकी building आ रही है, and this is appearing as closing also. So you may ask the management कि ये opening जो आ रहा है, please provide me with the title deeds, please provide me with the electricity documents, electricity bill, है ना, in order to see the ownership of such building, है ना. So auditor का क्या responsibility है opening balance में? पहले देख लो correctly brought forward हुआ या नहीं. कुछ audit procedures जो आप during the year करोगे with respect to current assets, current liability, they are going to provide you audit evidence with respect to opening balances. With respect to some other items of the financial statement, you may need to perform what? Audit procedures. ठीक है? Here, if auditor concludes that opening balances do not contain any material misstatement which have an effect on financial statement, then it is perfectly fine. But if auditor finds that there is a misstatement in the financial statement which is still unresolved, वो जो undervaluation of inventory था, that is still continuing. Auditor, the financial statements have not been rectified as such. ठीक है? He needs to consider the effect on his audit report. Simple. Same is with accounting policies consistently applied है. नहीं है, proper disclosure है, fine. If proper disclosure नहीं है, then consider the effect on the financial statement, right? Now there is one more point, that when you were perusing is what? Reading the predecessor's auditor report under SA 315, and you find that with respect to certain matter in the predecessor auditor's report, जो last year auditor था, जो उसकी report में there was a modification. ठीक है? Let's say with respect to undervaluation of inventory only. ठीक है? But in the next year the same has been rectified, then also it is fine. You will obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence with respect to that. But if this modification is still unresolved, you are going to consider the effect on the financial statement, though it relates to what? Opening balances. Why? Because if there is mistake in opening, that is going to have an impact on your closing also. Logical है, simple audit procedures है कि financial statements को देख लो कि correctly brought forward हुए, नहीं कुछ audit procedures खुद ही answer दे देंगे with respect to opening, कुछ specific audit procedures कर लो. If you're satisfied with everything, then it is fine. Otherwise, mention the impact in your audit report. Simple. So let us have a look at SA 510. So students, I have tried to summarize these essays so as to save the time, and also because many of you say that ma'am these summaries help, है ना? So in order you want to take a note of all these, you can always pause the video and quickly take the note, or you can yourself make your own summary in your language in which you are comfortable. ठीक है? So it deals with the auditor's responsibility relating to opening balances when conducting initial audit engagement. अब initial audit engagement क्या होता है? Financial statement for prior period were not audited, or they were audited by predecessor auditor. Opening balances में आपका क्या आ गया? Financial statement amounts and the disclosures जो भी they are appearing in the financial statement. Simple है. Objective. Again 500 series है. So to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, this is sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Whether opening balances contain material misstatement misstatement that materially affect the current period financial statement and appropriate accounting policies, whether these are consistently applied, or if there are any changes, whether these are properly accounted for and the presentation and disclosure is as per the applicable FRF. ठीक है, simple है. So if I ask you that SF 510 casts a responsibility on the auditor with respect to what? So opening balances and accounting policies. है ना? Opening balances में आपके amounts भी आ जाते हैं and आपके क्या आ जाते हैं? Disclosures भी आ जाते हैं. So whether opening balances contain any material misstatement that have an effect on the current period financial statement, and whether the accounting policies are consistently applied, and if not, then whether it has been properly accounted for in the books of account and presentation disclosure as per the applicable FRF. Okay, is it clear? Clear? Now, what are the audit procedures? Simple. Read the most recent financial statement and predecessors audit report. ये तो आप वैसे भी ऐसे 315 में करने ही वाले हो ना, in order to obtain the understanding about the entity and its environment, है ना? Obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence whether balances, opening balances contain material misstatement, और वो कैसे होगा पहले तो हम देख लेंगे कि correctly brought forward हुआ है या नहीं, and if any item has been adjusted as prior period item, है ना? Opening balances, whether they reflect the application of appropriate accounting policies, ये सब हम consider करेंगे. Auditor will perform following procedures. He'll read the audited financial statement. He'll perform audit procedure for the current period, which will provide audit evidence with respect to opening balances. I gave you example of what current assets, current liabilities. He will perform specific audit procedures to obtain audit evidence regarding opening balances, that is fixed assets. Let me just take you through the module for this point. So ये आपने पढ़ लिया, definition पढ़ लिया, objective is also done कि accounting policies के लिए है and आपका opening balances के लिए है. देखो audit procedures. So you may get a question, what are the audit procedures regarding the opening balances when in terms of SA 510? So the auditor shall read the most recent financial statement. He shall obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence about whether opening balances contain misstatement that materially affect the current period financial statement by determining whether the prior period closing balance has been correctly brought forward to current period, or where appropriate any adjustment has been disclosed as prior period item in the current year's financial statement. So you can always write na ki brought forward correctly plus PPI. Whether opening balances reflect application of appropriate accounting policies, and how he'll see whether where there are audited financial statement, he'll read such prior period audited financial statement. Evaluating whether audit procedures performed in the current period provide evidence relating to opening balances. I gave example of current asset, current liabilities, debtors. Performing specific audit procedure to obtain evidence regarding the opening balances, fixed assets के लिए. ठीक है? Now, is it clear? इतना समझ आता है? Quickly send in your replies. Priyanka, it is Delhi. Quickly send in your replies. Is it clear till now? ठीक है. So, if the auditor obtains, like after performing the above procedures, अब logically सोचना, अगर auditor को लगता है misstatement है, तो additional procedures कर लो, conclude हो गया है, तो there is one SA 450 that will be there is a reference to SA 450 that will be just doing, है ना? But everything is just logical. See, if auditor obtains audit evidence that opening balances contain material misstatement that can materially affect the current period financial statement, he will perform what? Additional audit procedures. If he concludes, यहाँ audit evidence मिला था, additional audit procedures किए, conclude कर लिया that misstatement is there in the current in the opening balances which have an effect that undervaluation of inventory has not been rectified as such, he shall communicate it in terms of SA 450. So as such SA 450 is not in detail in your syllabus, but what is the name? Evaluation of misstatement identified during the audit. So auditor will communicate to the management or the appropriate level of those charged with governance in terms of SA 450, which is what? Evaluation of misstatement. So he has concluded that there is a misstatement now. So in terms of SA 450, auditor needs to communicate such misstatement which he has identified during the audit to the management and the appropriate those charged with governance. So predecessor is former. So there is a doubt. It is what? Former. Okay? So if he obtains an audit evidence, first of all, confirm it. To perform additional audit procedures. If he concludes, then communicate with management appropriate those charged with governance in terms of SA 450. Okay? Now there is a modification in predecessor auditor report. और ये auditor को कैसे पता चलेगा? SA 315 में he must have inspected the documents of the last year now. So evaluate the effect of matter in assessing risk of material misstatement. Consider the effect of that matter when the auditor is assessing the risk of material misstatement. Clear? Now one topic is left in this essay, which is what is going to be the impact on audit report. अभी तक हमने क्या किया कि ओपनिंग बैलेंसेस को कैसे देखना है, आपको ब्रॉड फॉरवर्ड देखना है करेक्टली है नहीं, पीपीआई तो नहीं हो गया है, या the audit procedures during the year, whether they are providing the information with respect to opening balances or perform specific audit procedures. Same way with respect to accounting policies, auditor needs to perform what? Audit procedures in order to see whether these are consistently applied, and if these are not consistently applied, whether the relevant disclosure have been shown as per the applicable FRA. ठीक है? प्रीडिसेसर ऑडिटर्स रिपोर्ट में कुछ मॉडिफिकेशन है, आपने ऐसे 315 में उसको कंसीडर किया होगा ना. व्हेन यू हैव came across such modification, evaluate the effect on the of that matter in assessing the risk of material misstatement in terms of SA 315. Clear? अब ऑडिटर रिपोर्ट पे या ऑडिटर कंक्लूजन पे व्हाट इज गोइंग टू बी द इम्पैक्ट? देखो बहुत सिंपल है. अच्छा देखो यहाँ पर ना ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट SA 705 में whenever we modify our opinion ना, जब हम मॉडिफाई नहीं करते, हम क्या बोलते हैं, SA 700 में हम ओपिनियन देते हैं जहां हम बोलते हैं कि ऑडिट फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट रिफ्लेक्ट अ ट्रू एंड फेयर व्यू. ठीक है? If the auditor wants to modify the opinion, he needs to go to SA 705. ये आप डिटेल में चैप्टर 11 में पढ़ने वाले. ठीक है? अब जो मॉडिफिकेशन होता है ना, वो क्वालिफाइड हो सकता है, एडवर्स हो सकता है और डिस्क्लेमर हो सकता है. ठीक है? सो क्वालिफाइड में ऑडिटर इज सेइंग दैट एक्सेप्ट फॉर ये वाला चीज ना, बाकी स्टेटमेंट रिफ्लेक्ट ट्रू एंड फेयर व्यू. एडवर्स में ऑडिटर इज सेइंग एवरीथिंग इज नॉट रिफ्लेक्टिंग ट्रू एंड फेयर व्यू. एंड डिस्क्लेमर में ऑडिटर इज सेइंग आई एम अनेबल टू ऑब्टेन सफिशिएंट एप्रोप्रिएट ऑडिट एविडेंस. ठीक है? बहुत शॉर्ट में बता रही हूं बिकॉज अब जो कंक्लूजन है दिस इज गोइंग टू बी यूज देयर. तो क्वालिफाइड क्या है कि आपने कुछ क्वालिफिकेशन मार्क कर दिया दैट एक्सेप्ट फॉर दिस थिंग द रेस्ट ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट रिफ्लेक्टेड ट्रू एंड फेयर. एडवर्स में आप क्या बोल रहे हो, द एंटायर फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट डू नॉट रिफ्लेक्टेड ट्रू एंड फेयर व्यू बिकॉज ऑफ द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ सम मैटर. सारी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट गलत है. डिस्क्लेमर क्या होता है, डिस्क्लेम कर दिया कि मुझे नहीं पता, दैट ही इज अनेबल टू ऑब्टेन सफिशिएंट एप्रोप्रिएट ऑडिट एविडेंस. ठीक है? अब देखो जहां पर when the auditor is with respect to opening balances, where the auditor is unable to obtain audit evidence with respect to opening balance, है ना, he saw that whether these are brought forward properly or not. He also performed the procedures on current asset, current liability during the year, whereby he was not able to obtain with respect to opening balances. Fixed assets के लिए भी some data is not available, so he is unable to obtain. So auditor needs to consider what? Modifying his opinion. He may give qualified or disclaimer. ठीक है? qualified or disclaimer depending upon how this मैटर इज इम्पैक्टिंग दी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट कि कितना इम्पैक्ट है इस मैटर का फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट में. क्वालिफाइड देगा ये डिस्क्लेमर. डिटेल में आप चैप्टर नंबर 11 में अच्छे से पढ़ना है इस टॉपिक को. ठीक है. इफ ऑडिटर कंक्लूड्स कि ओपनिंग बैलेंसेस में मिसस्टेटमेंट है, ऐसे 705 में मॉडिफाई करो, गिव एन क्वालिफाइड और एडवर्स ओपिनियन. ठीक है. डिपेंडिंग अपॉन कि कितना इम्पैक्ट है इस मैटर का. सिंपल. So in short, I can say अगर कंक्लूड हो जाता है या अनेबल टू ऑब्टेन सफिशिएंट एप्रोप्रिएट ऑडिट एविडेंस की मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट है, तो क्या करना है? मॉडिफाई करना है. कैसे मॉडिफाई करना है चैप्टर नंबर 11 में देखेंगे, बट अभी के लिए थोड़ा बहुत तो समझ आ जाना चाहिए. ठीक है. अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसीज में भी इफ ही कंक्लूड्स दैट दीज आर नॉट कंसिस्टेंटली अप्लाइड एंड द चेंजेस आर आल्सो नॉट प्रॉपर्ली अकाउंटेड फॉर, कंसीडर द इम्पैक्ट अंडर SA 705 qualified or adverse. If this modification in the predecessor auditor's report, this star I have put it here, if it remains relevant for the current year financial statements also, like this year also it is relevant, modify the opinion in terms of SA 705. And student, in your chapter number 11 you will be doing SA 710 relating to comparative information. So it says that consider the effect under SA 710 also. Clear? Is it clear? बहुत सिंपल है. So I will just quickly summarize this. क्या हमने पढ़ा कि SA 510 क्या बोलता है? The name is initial audit engagement opening balances. So auditor की responsibility है towards opening balances, जिसमें financial statement amount and disclosures भी हैं, and the consistent application of accounting policies. Initial audit engagement क्या है? जो last year का prior period financial statement were not audited or audited by predecessor जिसका भी डाउट था, it is what? Former, earlier, है ना. मतलब मैंने नहीं किया ऑडिट. ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है? सफिशिएंट एप्रोप्रिएट ऑडिट एविडेंस लेना है कि ओपनिंग बैलेंस में देयर इज नो मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट, दैट देयर इज नो मिसस्टेटमेंट दैट कैन मटेरियली अफेक्ट द करंट पीरियड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट, एंड एप्रोप्रिएट अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी हैव बीन कंसिस्टेंटली अप्लाइड, और इफ देयर आर चेंजेस दे हैव बीन प्रॉपर्ली अकाउंटेड फॉर एंड डिस्क्लोज्ड, प्रेजेंटेड, डिस्क्लोज्ड एज पर एप्लीकेबल एफआरएफ. इसमें कोई भी टर्मिनोलॉजी ऐसी नहीं है जो आप खुद से नहीं लिख सकते. ओपनिंग बैलेंसेस, अब आपको पता है कि ब्रॉड फॉरवर्ड तो मोस्ट रीसेंट फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट पढ़ोगे, सफिशिएंट एप्रोप्रिएट ऑडिट एविडेंस लेना है. कैसे? आप देखोगे ब्रॉड फॉरवर्ड करेक्टली, ये आप फाउंडेशन से पढ़ते आ रहे हो ना, तो नो लाइक जार्गन्स और नथिंग लाइक दैट. करेक्टली ब्रॉड फॉरवर्ड हुआ नहीं, एंड adjustment have been shown as PPI, prior period item, and he'll perform various procedures like audit procedures that are performed during the year. They may provide audit evidence with respect to opening balances, and auditor may perform specific audit procedure to obtain audit evidence regarding opening balances. For example, I gave you example of what? Building, fixed assets. ठीक है. Now, if he obtains audit evidence, तो कुछ भी लिखने से पहले perform additional audit procedures, conclude कर देते हो, communicate to those charged with governance or management, SA 450, that is evaluation of misstatement identified during the audit. ठीक है. प्रीडिसेसर ऑडिटर्स रिपोर्ट में मॉडिफिकेशन है, इवैल्यूएट द इम्पैक्ट इन असेसिंग रिस्क ऑफ मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट. यू में से मैम असेस करने में कैसे हेल्प करेगा? देखो 315 में आपने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स को इंस्पेक्ट किया होगा ना लास्ट ईयर का, तो वहीं पर कंसीडर कर लो ना. सी यहीं पर यू आर देन गोइंग टू डिसाइड एज टू व्हाट आर गोइंग टू बी योर एंटी ऑफ द ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स दैट यू आर गोइंग टू परफॉर्म. कंक्लूजन्स पे क्या है? अगर कंक्लूड हो जाता है या अनेबल टू ऑब्टेन है, कंसीडर द इफेक्ट ऑन ऑडिट रिपोर्ट, and if that modification still remains relevant, modify, and consider impact as per SA 710. 710 is with respect to what? Comparative information. Okay. So I hope it is clear. Let me just have a look at your queries, and then students, have you uploaded the questions that I've already uploaded? So please send in your replies. पहले तो ये बताओ कि SA 510 क्लियर हुआ है, कोई डाउट है? फिर ये बताओ कि क्वेश्चंस अपलोड किए हैं, नहीं किए हैं तो कर लो. ठीक है. एंड लेट मी जस्ट हैव अ लुक एट द क्वेरीज. So Nisha is saying, मैम when you teach तब तो सब कुछ समझ आता है, पर जब खुद से पढ़ते हैं तो सब सेम लगता है और आउटपुट भी नहीं निकलता. सजेस्ट समथिंग टू कम आउट फ्रॉम दिस प्रॉब्लम. सो निशा, सी द आंसर टू योर क्वेश्चन इज, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल लिसन टू द सेशंस अटेंटिवली, है ना. और एक बार नहीं, अगर आपको कोई डाउट आ रहा है तो listen to these sessions again. These are available for review ना. तो listen, watch these sessions again, and immediately after the session, or let's say next morning if it is an evening session, go through the module. कैसे समझ नहीं आएगा, एक बार आप मॉड्यूल हाथ की like side by side read it ना. If you will read it after 2 days, many of the concepts you must have forgotten. So try to read it the next day so that you are able to correlate the examples that we discuss, because in the class we discuss a number of practical situations ki practically aise hota hai. Now let us just have a look at this, and then only you will be able to what correlate to what we have discussed in the class. तो अब अगर आप gap ले आओगे बीच में, then obviously it is going to what impact your understanding. So try to what read it again, and for any queries I'm always there. The faculties are always there. You can always send in your queries. ठीक है? And try to make summaries in the way you like. यहाँ पर इतनी space में आप quickly keywords लिख सकते हो ना, या use highlighter, है ना? And pick up the keywords. Don't cram. Cramming will not help you because there are 13 chapters. But yes, understanding के बाद अगर कुछ keywords आप learn कर लेते हो, and in fact what I feel is that learning happens side by side. When you listen to the sessions once or twice, you go through the module once or twice, it is definitely going to help you in learning. Okay, Nisha? So tell me. So on the app, these questions are available. Who is asking this? Ayushi. Now, just a minute. As I've told you that we are now left with 3 essays. Essay number 550, related party, 560, subsequent event, 570, going concern. All are very important. In fact, this chapter is really very, very important from your examination point of view also, and practically also, because when you will be conducting the audit in your articleship or otherwise when you become chartered accountant, as when you will be conducting the audit, you will see whatever you are reading, practically you are going to do the same thing, Anna. So and very interesting also. Okay. So now let us discuss the MCQs that I have already uploaded. You may come across some MCQs which are related to the 3 essays that are left, that we will leave for today. See, I have uploaded them on the portal, Ayushi. You can download these questions. Okay. With respect to every chapter, for chapter number 1 also I have uploaded the questions. Hana? I hope you all have downloaded them and gone through them. MCQ number 1. SQC 1, just a minute, requires the audit firm to establish policies and procedures for retention of engagement documentation. The retention period for the audit engagements ordinarily is not shorter than dash years from the date of auditor's report, or if later, the date of the group auditor's report. Quickly send in your replies. Write 1 and ABCD, whatever is the right answer. So Priyanka, please check. Students have already downloaded the questions. So I don't know why you are not able to see the questions, MCQs, and it is downloaded by this name only, MCQs chapter 3. So yes, the answer is what? 7 years. Chanchal, check your answer. अब इतने simple question में नहीं mistake करनी ना. Dash may be defined as the information used by the auditor in arriving at the conclusions on which the auditor's opinion is based. So with respect to point number B, quickly send in your replies. Look at all the options, then only you will be able to uh, uh, mark the correct answer. Students, I'm waiting for your replies. Chanchal, check your answer for one. So it is what? Audit evidence. Okay, so Alok, Dhyanesh, Ayushi, check your answer. Anish, Khojema, Harshita, Jyoti, check your answers. Anamika, Ayushi, you all are correct. Now, see, whenever you get any MCQ like this, now read it properly. Which of the following statement is correct? Not correct नहीं पूछा है, correct पूछा है. Statement 1. Audit evidence comprises both information that supports the audit evidence and supports and corroborates management judgment, and information that contradicts the assertion. Tell me, is it true? Yes, this is true. Because if any audit evidence is supporting, it is also audit evidence, any information. And if it is contradicting, it is also what? Audit evidence. Audit evidence is necessary to support the auditor's opinion and cumulative in nature, and is primarily obtained from audit procedures performed in the course of audit. Is it true? So this is also what? True. So which of the following statement is correct? Only one? No. Only two? No. Both. Send in the replies for question number 3. Sending your replies. So these documents were uploaded yesterday only, Sankaran. Fourth, when the auditor is looking at the process or procedure being performed by others, what kind of audit procedure is he performing? Quickly send in your replies. So it is what? Observation, looking at, remember, the process being performed by others. Send in your replies with respect to fifth question, fifth MCQ. After the fifth MCQ, we will discuss a case scenario. Dash may be defined as the audit procedures designed to evaluate the operating effectiveness of controls in preventing or detecting and correcting material misstatement at the assertion level. So it is what? Students, you are getting confused in simple questions like these. Check your answers. Alok, Ayushi. Operating effectiveness of internal control को अगर आप देखते हो तो वो कौन से प्रोसीजर्स होते हैं? टेस्ट ऑफ कंट्रोल्स. See, substantive procedures are the procedures to detect material misstatement at the assertion level ना. सब्सटैंटिव एनालिटिकल प्रोसीजर्स तो आपका रेशियोज ट्रेंड्स होता है. टेस्ट ऑफ डिटेल में भी आप फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट को चेक करते हो जिसमें आप वाउचिंग और वेरिफिकेशन करते हो. तो कंट्रोल्स तो फिर टेस्ट ऑफ कंट्रोल्स कितना सिंपल है. सब्सटैंटिव प्रोसीजर्स तो हमने पढ़ा ही है ना. Audit procedures performed to detect material misstatement at the assertion level. So why is there a confusion? Sapna, Anamika, Nikhil, Jyoti. सिंपल क्वेश्चन से स्टार्ट करो, है ना? So now let us have a look at the case scenario. Okay, Alok. See, ABC and Associates are the statutory auditors of MNO Limited for the financial year 2021. MNO Limited is engaged in the business of manufacture of LED lights. C. Anthony is the engagement partner for the audit assignment. He discussed with his team various aspects related to audit documentation and audit evidence. During the course of audit, one of the audit team members who was checking the debtor balances discussed the status of his audit work with CA Anthony. The latter advised him, the team member, to send confirmation request to the debtors, whereby the confirming party responds directly to the auditor only if the confirming party disagrees with the information provided in the request. Further, CA Anthony requested the management of MNO Limited to provide a banker's certificate in support of fixed deposits. However, the management said that since arranging the banker's certificate is a time-consuming process, the engagement partner should accept WR, written representation from the management in regard to this instead of a banker's certificate. Also, with respect to other written representations to be provided to the team members, the management contended that the same will be provided after the date of the auditor's report. CA Anthony told the audit team about their responsibility with regard to completion of the final audit file on a timely basis. He also calculated the gross profit ratio of MNO Limited and asked one of the team members to collect similar data for other companies manufacturing the LED lights in the similar industry for further comparison and analysis. Now, what kind of confirmation request is being advised by C. Anthony to the team member with respect to checking the debtor balance of the company? Hannah, you will have a look at all the 4 options and take your time, but please give correct answer. ठीक है, तो ये कहाँ बात हो रही है? Where C. Anthony has advised the team member to send a confirmation request to the debtors, whereby the confirming party responds directly to the auditor only if the confirming party disagrees. Okay? Now tell me, A, B, C, D. Don't be in a hurry. Simple questions को भी आप कैसे गलत कर सकते हो? देखो यहाँ क्या लिखा है? Only if the confirming party disagrees. अभी कौन सा है? Negative confirmation request है ना? So the answer is B. ठीक है? Should, second question, should C. Anthony accept written representation from the management instead of banker certificate with respect to the fixed deposits of the company? So let us read these options one by one. Yes, C. Anthony should accept as the reason given by management is valid. B. Yes, as written representation provided by management constitutes a sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So this is also not correct. This is also not correct. No, as written representation provided by management of company does not provide sufficient appropriate audit evidence on its own. No, as written representation provided by the management is not an audit evidence. So what is the answer? Quickly send in your replies. With respect to second question, Yes. So the answer is what? C. Audit evidence तो होता है, but sufficient appropriate नहीं होता ना. ठीक है. What is the appropriate time limit within which the audit team should complete the assembly of final audit file after the date of auditor's report? So it is mentioned here that C. Anthony told the audit team about the responsibility with regard to completion of final audit file on timely basis. So what is the time limit? So quickly send in your replies. So students, don't be in a hurry to answer. Read the question properly. Read all the options. Then only you will be able to answer the MCQ correctly. So Kojima, Alok, Ayushi, Aman, Dhyanesh, Bhargav, Sapna, all are correct. Answer is A. Not more than 60 days after the date of auditor's report. Is the contention of management of MNO Limited with respect to providing other written representations to the audit team correct? So kya contention tha? Let us read it again. Also here, also with respect to other written representations to be provided to the audit team. The management contended that the same will be provided after the date of the auditor's report. Whether the contention of management correct? तो ये बैंकर सर्टिफिकेट वाली रिप्रेजेंटेशन की बात नहीं हो रही है, अदर रिटन रिप्रेजेंटेशंस. Please send in your replies. So no, even if the audit team agrees, वैसे तो audit team will not agree because there is a responsibility given by SA 580 on the auditor to obtain written representation, and the date should be as near as practicable, but not after the date of the audit report. Fifth question. What kind of audit procedure is the audit team performing when they are calculating the GP ratio of the company and comparing them with the other companies in the similar industry? Is it test of control, analytical procedure, test of details, or none of the above? Quickly send in your replies with respect to fifth question. So the answer is what? Analytical procedures. And to this, Ayushi, Pranav, Priyanka, Sankar, and Alok, Sapna, Jyoti, Piyush, Anish, Dhyanesh, Kojima, absolutely correct. Okay. Now let us have a look at few descriptive type questions also. So students, with respect to the MCQs that are left, I've already uploaded the answer sheet also. If the time will permit, we will discuss them tomorrow. Descriptive question we will discuss in the session today itself. So let us discuss certain descriptive questions. Analytical procedures, substantive analytical procedures, and sometimes they are also called what? Analytical review procedures. So these are same. SA 520 में, chapter number 8 में you will do it in detail. So let us do this question number 2. Question number 2. Quickly read it. Messrs. Samar, Amar and Associates are the statutory auditors of Ganga Limited for the financial year 2021. C. Samar is the engagement partner for such assignment. While discussing with the engagement team, C. Samar briefed his team about the requirements for assembly of audit file. What should C. Samar tell them team about the time limit with respect to completion of assembly of final audit file and retention? So we have discussed this assembly of audit file in detail. So you will mention that administrative kind of work can be done. Hana? Not more than 60 days from the date of the auditor's report is what? The assembly. And the retention period should be no shorter than 7 years from the date of the auditor's report and the various kind of changes that can be made. Okay, let me just take you to that relevant paragraph. Students, are you able to answer the questions on your own? समझ आ रहा है? At least पता चल रहा है कि इसमें लिखना क्या है? So assembly of final audit file. You may mention that it should be on timely basis and not more than 60 days after the date of auditor's report. And then about what? This retention. Further, at the end, if the time is permitting, you may also mention about these are the changes and you may write these changes in short also. ठीक है? Let us read this question number 4. CA Ajay is the statutory auditors of XYZ Limited for financial year 2021. During the year under audit, he found that a litigation is going against the company for which the company has hired external legal team. Achha, for your reference, I have given you management expert. For your reference, Hana. CA Ajay wanted to use the information prepared using the work of management expert as audit evidence. What should CA Ajay consider while using the work, before using the work of the management expert? Good, Anand. So this is what was the topic with respect to management expert. So audit evidence may we have seen that CCO, completion capability, objectivity, competence, capability, objectivity. He needs to obtain an understanding, Hana, and of the work of the expert and evaluate the appropriateness of experts' work as audit evidence for their relevant assertion. Clear? Is it clear? So I'm discussing the questions that I feel that some stories are mentioned, then something is asked. So I'm discussing all those questions with you. Let us read question number 12. Messrs. Suraj and Associates are the statutory auditors of Yuvraj Limited for financial year 2021. During the course of audit, CA Suraj, the engagement partner, requested the management of the company to provide written representations with respect to valuation of a transaction. The management, however, does not provide the same to CA Suraj. What course of action CA Suraj should follow in such a situation? Send me the replies for question number 12. You may refer to the paragraph number. अब यहाँ पर as such topic name is not mentioned, है ना? So during the course, they ask for what? Written representation. तो written representation है तो ऐसे 580 में जाना है. And they are not providing. Refusal है, ठीक है? So let us have a look. So this is the answer. Acha, nahi, you were supposed to send in the paragraph numbers, na? So this is the answer. Discuss the matter with the management. Reevaluate the integrity of management and evaluate the effect that may have that the matter may have on the reliability of representations and audit evidence in general, and take appropriate actions including determining the possible effect of the opinion in the auditor's report in accordance with SA 705. See, don't just write a general answer कि additional audit procedures करो, नहीं होते हैं तो modify करो. See, first of all, he'll discuss with the management ना, ठीक है. Then he'll reevaluate. A management किसी मैटर पे आपको नहीं दे रहा है written representation, you will reevaluate the management's integrity and evaluate the effect on the reliability of other written representation or other audit evidence, and then take appropriate action like considering modifying your opinion. ठीक है. So Mr. Alok, is it clear? ठीक है. So rest all are like direct questions. So see, 14th question. What is negative confirmation? When should an auditor use the negative confirmation request as the sole substantive audit procedure to address the assessed risk of material misstatement at the assertion level? Or all those 4 points should be present. Low risk of material misstatement, internal control are good. Remember, large population of small homogeneous account balances, large number of small homogeneous population. Low exception rate is expected. Remember, send in your replies. Send in your replies. And last was the auditor do not see any reason whereby the recipient will disregard the external confirmation request. And Luke is saying that he's writing a descriptive answer so that it can be corrected, which is absolutely correct. There are how many? 20 questions, descriptive questions. And students often come and they say, ma'am, how to write the answers? See, we are discussing it, but how to write, so you will have to write it by your own hands now. So at least practice at least 5 out of all these 20 questions. Once you practice now, you will have confidence with respect to your descriptive also. See, MCQs, true, false में you need to mention the reasoning. Okay? MCQs, your case scenarios, as such, you are not writing anything. But descriptive question may, whereby you are writing, please practice them in writing now. Okay? So many of you are saying, ma'am, please discuss 1 or 2 MCQ. So we will do one thing. Based on the time which is left, let us discuss from the last. Dash maybe, if this is 15th MCQ, dash will be defined as 1 or more folders. Don't be in a hurry sending the correct answers. 1 or more folders or other storage media containing records that contain audit documentation for a specific engagement. Send in your replies. Audit file. Absolutely correct. For a specific engagement. 14. SQC 1 provides that unless otherwise specified by law or regulation, audit documentation is the property of. Write 14 and the answer as per you. So Ayushi, Dhyanesh, Alok, Anish, Khojema, Mohammed, Pranav, Priyanka, R, Piyush. Your answer is correct. Jyoti, check your answer. Sapna, check your answer. So it is the property of the auditor. Which of the following, see, read the question carefully, is not the correct statement. Hana? Read all the statements. The written statement shall be in the form of a representation letter addressed to the auditor. ये तो ठीक लग रहा है. The date of written representation shall be as near as practicable, but not after the date of the auditor's report. ये भी ठीक लग रहा है. Written representation include financial statements, the assertions therein, and supporting documents. And ये ठीक नहीं लग रहा. None of the above. So this is also not correct. So the answer is what? C. Which of the following is an example of internal evidence? Send in your replies for 12th. Send in your replies for 12th question. Check your answer, Mohammed. Sales invoice. Read the 11th question, 11th MCQ. A request that the confirming party respond directly to the auditor indicating whether confirming party agrees or disagrees with the information in the request and providing the requested information is what kind of confirmation? Aman Sharma, please repeat your query. So try to write the answer to descriptive question in points. If you're writing it in points, that is absolutely fine. So the answer is what? Ayushi, Priyanka, Khojema, Dhyanesh, Jyoti, Aman, Piyush. Piyush, check your answer. Alok, Harshita, Pranav, check your answer. Jyoti, Mr. R, check your answer. Sankaran, Nikhil, all are correct. Direct positive confirmation request. See, there is no term like direct confirmation request as such. Na? In terms of SA 505, negative confirmation request है, यहाँ पर क्या है? Positive confirmation request. So the last question for today, as per SA 501, 10th question, MCQ. The objective of the auditor is to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding existence and condition of inventory, completeness of litigation and claims involving the entity, presentation, disclosure of segment information in accordance with applicable FRF, all of the above. So I think the easiest question. So Ayushi has answered the 10th question correctly. Others also please reply. Alok, Hojema, Aman, Pranav, Bhargav, Jyoti, Anish, Mohammed, Piyush, Sapna, Sankaran, R, Harshita, Anand, Mohammed, absolutely correct. Okay. So before ending the session for today, let me just request you a few things. First of all, you need to go through the module till where we have covered. Only 3 essays are left, which are very, very important. And if the time will permit, most importantly, I'll be revising the entire chapter. Further, go through the questions which are left, like which we haven't discussed, the MCQs and the descriptive type. In case of any query with respect to those questions, I will take them up in the next session, which is tomorrow. And tomorrow audit session is in evening, 6 to 8:30. Okay. Apart from this, any query with respect to this chapter, chapter number 3, you can always send it that query at the start of the session tomorrow. And please, students, as many of you are saying that, ma'am, when we discuss in the class, it is clear. Afterwards, everything is mixed up. That is because you are not going through the module after the session immediately. I'm not saying that immediately, just within next 2-3 hours. Next day also you can read, but before coming for the next session, make sure that you have gone through the module, you have marked your doubts, and you have prepared the summaries if you find preparing summaries comfortable. Okay? And students, please fill in the feedback form that is available on the BUS app. That is really very, very important. And please also send in your replies as to whether you have understood, whether you are able to now answer the questions on your own. Hana? So I want you all to answer the questions on your own with confidence. Hana? And with respect to descriptive question, please go through, please write one. I've told you at least 5, but at least before the session, before tomorrow's session, at least practice 2 questions by writing. Hana? If you find any problem, then you can always send in your queries tomorrow. Yes, for chapter number 3, tomorrow's session is going to be the last session for this chapter, chapter number 3. Students' questions are already uploaded. So questions are already uploaded on the portal. And Priyanka, please check, because other students are able to download the questions. Okay. Ayushi, for practicing the first question, you can copy from the module, but try. Since we have had a detailed discussion with respect to every chapter, every topic, we are discussing it in detail. We are revising it also. So try to write it on your own using the keywords. Connecting language can be yours. Okay. So please send in your replies whether you have understood. And thank you for giving your Sunday morning to auditing and assurance subject. Hoping that you will be doing your homework, and after doing your homework, you'll be coming for the next session. So see you tomorrow. Thank you.